Plus, NASA blasts off its historic probe to touch the sun. Hello everyone, I'm Anna Kui, bringing you stories from around the globe, and this is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Angela Merkel says that no one has any interest in an economic destabilization of Turkey, weighing in on Turkey's economic crisis after the Turkish lira plummeted on Friday following Donald Trump's doubling of tariffs in imported steel and aluminum.
Niemand, aber das sage ich jetzt auch aus deutscher Perspektive, dafür muss ich mich nicht mit dem westlichen Balkan beschäftigen, hat ein Interesse an einer wirtschaftlichen Destabilisierung der Türkei. Aber es muss natürlich auch alles getan werden, damit zum Beispiel auch eine unabhängige Notenbank arbeiten kann und Ähnliches.
Turkey's central bank on Monday failed to halt the precipitous plunge of the lira with a raft of measures aimed at soothing markets, as President Recep Tayyip Erdogan accused the United States of seeking to stab its NATO ally in the back. A dispute between Turkey and the United States, which reached new intensity over the detention of an American pastor, has hammered the lira and also raised questions over the future partnership between Washington and Ankara. As the lira plunged another 7% in value, investors fretted over potential economic contagion from Turkey, particularly to European banks. The Turkish lira had tumbled some 16% against the dollar on Friday, as U.S. President Donald Trump said he had doubled tariffs on steel and aluminum from Turkey. Erdogan said at a conference in the capital, Ankara, quote, "We are together in NATO and then you seek to stab your strategic partner in the back. Can such a thing be accepted?" After Erdogan's speech, the lira was trading back at 6.9 to the dollar, a loss of over 7% on the day, recovering from even sharper losses in earlier Asian trade, where it struck a record low of 7.2362 to the greenback. In its first statement since what was dubbed Black Friday in Turkey, the central bank said it was ready to take all necessary measures to ensure financial stability, promising to provide banks with all the liquidity they need. The bank also revised reserve requirement ratios for banks in a move also aimed at staving off any liquidity issues. But to the dismay of markets, the statement gave no clear promise of rate hikes, which is what most economists and analysts say is needed to ease the crisis. Jordan's Interior Minister Samir Mubadin gives a press conference in Amman, during which he said militants killed in a deadly weekend raid by security forces were supporters of the Islamic State group and shared its extremist views. An investigation into the attack revealed information on further plans to attack security bases and public places. A joint unit of special forces, police, and army troops raided a house in Salt, a town northwest of Amman, a day after an officer was killed and 6 were wounded in a bomb blast in a nearby town during a music festival. 4 members of Jordan's security forces were also killed in the operation.
تستهدف نقاطا أمنية وتجمعات شعبية.
Speaking alongside the minister, government spokeswoman Jumana Nemat said a horrific amount of explosives was found in the jihadist hideout. She said the explosives were primed to be used and linked to timers. The militants were holed up in an apartment in a 4-story residential block in Salt. They blew up the apartment as security forces encircled them and exchanged heavy fire. Medical sources said 10 people were wounded in the raid, including members of the security forces and residents of the building used as a hideout. Jordan, a small desert kingdom bordering Syria and Iraq, has been the target of several jihadist attacks. A shooting rampage in 2016 claimed by IS killed 10 people, including a Canadian tourist in Karak, known for its Crusader castle. A close ally of Washington, Jordan has played a key role in the U.S.-led coalition fighting IS in Syria and Iraq, using its air force against the jihadists and allowing coalition forces to use its bases. Up next, cows help rehabilitate prisoners in Sweden. Pets from California fire evacuees wait in shelters. Eagle News Washington, D.C. will return in a moment.
Welcome to the garden. A world that recaptures the value of life, creating your moments, kindling your passion, worth reliving over and over. This is your world, your life, your garden.
The machine is back.
Lalagyan, flashlight, kandila, posporo at silbato, radyo na may bago at ekstrang baterya, first aid kit kasama ang panlunas sa lagnat, LBM, sugat at iba pa. Ang mga gamot na regular na iniinom ng pamilya, magagamit para sa mga sanggol, bata, matatanda at may kapansanan, pera at mga barya, pagkain na madaling ihanda, di na kailangang lutuin at sapat para sa 3 araw. Inuming tubig sa saradong lalagyan at sapat para sa 3 araw. Telepono, power bank at charger. Lubid, lumang dyaryo, matitibay na lalagyan. Damit, kapote, bota at mga sanitary supplies. Sleeping bag o banig at mga kumot. Suriin ang mga laman ng go bag kada 3 buwan at palitan ang mga laman nito na malapit nang masira. Ilagay ang go bag sa lugar na madali itong makita at makuha sa oras ng sakunan.
Pet News, Linggo, alas 4 hanggang alas 5 ng hapon.
Alam mo naman, feeling cherry capital of the West.
I know my mom, played a big role dun sa Metro Pop. Tapos yung mga songs na yan, parang naging classic eh. They're some of the best music that we produce. Yeah, actually, alam mo, Kaiser sa amin sa Ilocos Norte, we have the Tan-Ok Festival.
And actually, did you guys know, film producer actually ang nanay ko dati. But actually, mom, feeling ko, mas bagay kayo as love team.
Iba't ibang di pangkaraniwang pangyayari ang nagaganap sa ating komunidad sa buong bansa at magiging sa iba't ibang panig ng daigdig.
Mga pangyayaring nagpapakilo sa damdamin, nagsisilbing inspirasyon at nakakaapekto sa mga mamamayan.
Sa mata ng Agila, patuloy kaming maghahatid ng tunay, patas at balanse mga balita na walang ibang motibo kundi serbisyo publiko.
Subaybayan ang mga hatid naming balita sa Eagle News PH Facebook at Twitter pages.
At sa Eagle News Live YouTube channel.
At sa aming website, ang eaglenews.ph.
Mata ng Agila! Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 6 hanggang alas 7:30 ng gabi.
Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News, Washington, D.C. In Sweden, the happiness of prisoners lies in the meadow. It's barely 6 o'clock and Alfred already has his hands on an udder. He spends 5 mornings a week with his herd of cows, but Alfred is a breeder unlike any other. Incarcerated in Brojan, Sweden, he is preparing for reintegration into society. In this rehabilitation program, 60 prisoners work daily to maintain their organic farm. At daybreak, Alfred is already busy milking cows. But when his chores on the farm are done, he won't be going home. He'll be returning to his prison cell. In Sweden, which prioritizes rehabilitation over long prison sentences, Alfred is one of 60 inmates preparing to reintegrate into society at a minimum security open prison, functioning as a farm in the town of Mariestad, about 185 miles southwest of Stockholm. Imprisoned since April for illegally possessing a gun, Alfred, a grandfather in his 50s, who is due to be released in November, can't hide the joy he gets from spending time with the animals.
Jag får väldigt lugn av djur och jag tycker om djur. Och det är, vad ska man säga, det ger mig någonting. Det är bra i alla fall.
His agricultural prison called Rojan, the biggest of the Swedish penitentiary system's 3 farms, his routines are the same every day. He meets up with his work assignment partner, Sofian, both names have been changed to protect their identities, in the morning for 2.5 hours of work and then once again in the evening. Other inmates work on the farm watering the plants, repainting the gates and mowing the lawn, and a dozen of them are in charge of the livestock. Sweden is among the countries with the fewest prisoners in the world. There are 0.5 inmates per 1,000 inhabitants, which is half of that in France, 1 per 1,000. Swedish and French prison data show. The Scandinavian nation spends twice as much as France on each detainee, including those placed under surveillance, and works hard to avoid confinement. Instead, it prefers to put people on probation, favors widespread use of ankle monitors, sentences people to community service, and releases prisoners after 2/3 of time served. Sweden also invests heavily in reintegration through language classes and vocational training. In Sweden, just under 1/3 of prisoners re-offend after leaving jail or serving their term, which is half of that in France, according to the Swedish and French prison statistics. As in all penitentiaries across Sweden, inmates have their own cells. At Rojan, they are unlocked. There are no security cameras, no gates, no barbed wire, and inmates are allowed to move about freely. Sweden has more than a dozen open prisons across the country. Inmates at Rojan are serving sentences for all types of convictions, ranging from driving without a license to tax crimes or assault. But prisoners placed there are all considered to not pose a threat to society. As Californians flee the holy fire, they often can't take their pets with them and have to put them in the care of specialized services, like the San Jacinto Valley Animal Campus, which has sheltered around 180 animals so far.
They would drive out to the fire locations or the meeting points, which would be the high schools, and they would receive the animals from the owners or whoever the volunteer was working that day. So they would just receive them that way, transfer them to the trucks, and they would pull up to our Sally Port here. At one point we got alpacas, we got chickens at one point, but they can range from anything. On our very first fire, we got like little bullfrogs, pets and things like that, little turtles. So we can pretty much expect anything and everything.
One of the fires scorching California Sunday moved in on a retirement community, prompting evacuation orders for thousands of people. Residents of the Trilogy Glen Ivy community, located between the Santa Ana Mountains and the major highway, who have trouble driving in the dark, were urged to leave immediately to escape the wrath of the holy fire, which has already burned through 22,714 acres and is 41% contained. The U.S. Forest Service estimates that around 3,700 homes and structures have been evacuated, or around 11,120 people. Nearly 1,500 firefighters, supported by some inmates from a local jail, are battling that blaze as it spread to the north and east, prompting a new round of evacuations. Across California, firefighters reported making significant progress against some of the huge wildfires raging across the most populous state, but were bracing for more of the soaring temperatures, dry air, and gusty winds that have made their jobs so tough. Some of the worst fires slowed over the weekend. The so-called Mendocino complex north of state capital Sacramento, including the river and ranch fires, which together formed the largest blaze in state history, burned 3,100 acres overnight, just one-fourth the previous night's toll, according to local media. The Corp fire in the north, which has destroyed more than 1,000 homes, grew only modestly overnight as containment lines improved. Coming up, NASA blasts off its historic probe to touch the sun. Eagle News Washington, D.C. will return shortly.
Muling sariwain ang mga awitin ng pag-ibig na nagbigay saya at aliw noon. Muling pakinggan ang tinig ng mga orihinal na musika na hinahangaan at minamahal hanggang ngayon.
Araw-gabi, nasa isip, walat kayo pala, pag-ibig mo, nanatulog lang sa ginto mo. Aking sinta, lunas niya rin.
Panoorin at laging subaybayan ang programang Young Ones Upon a Time dito lang sa Net 25.
Events happen around us all the time. In our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Letters and Music, Lunes hanggang Biyernes, 1:00 hanggang 2:00 ng hapon.
As Eagle Broadcasting Corporation marks its 50th year, it is conducting several activities under the theme EBC Cares, enabling a better community. Health and nutrition are key factors on child's learning and well-being. EBC's feeding program encourages the community to combat malnutrition among children and ensure them a healthy future. EBC's cleanup drive and citronella planting hopes to help the community in caring for the environment and preventing diseases such as dengue. EBC's public service program, Paglilingkod sa Bayan, Serbisyo para sa Mamayan, has opened its doors to government agencies so more people can avail of these services. EBC's blood donation program and medical mission continue to spearhead life-saving projects, and EBC's livelihood seminar teaches and guides those who want to have additional income and business. EBC Cares, serving the people in these interesting times.
Ang malaking bahay, ang sasakyan, iniisip ng mga tao na kapag meron ka niyan, successful ka. Maraming mga tao, may mga tinatangkilik sa buhay pero hindi sila masaya. Paano ba maging masaya sa buhay na ito? Dapat marunong kang tumanggap ng kahit anong dumarating sa buhay mo. Walang question. Kasi lahat ng tao mamamatay. And para sa akin, ang lahat ng mga bagay sa mundong ito, basura lang. Kaya kung ano man ang kalagayan mo at masaya ka sa buhay na ito, successful ka.
This is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. I'm Anna Cui. NASA on Sunday blasted off its first ever spaceship to explore the sun, the $1.5 billion Parker Solar Probe, on a strategic mission to protect the Earth by unveiling the mysteries of dangerous solar storms. The launch of the car-sized probe aboard a massive Delta IV Heavy rocket lit the night sky at Cape Canaveral, Florida at 3:31 a.m. The unmanned spacecraft's mission is to get closer than any human-made object ever to the center of our solar system, plunging into the sun's atmosphere known as the corona during a 7-year mission. The probe is guarded by an ultra-powerful heat shield that can endure unprecedented levels of heat and radiation 500 times that experienced on Earth. When it nears the sun, the probe will travel at some 430,000 miles per hour. That will make it the fastest ever human-made object, speedy enough to travel from New York to Tokyo in 1 minute.
And video and paintings and so forth just don't catch it somehow. Your mind is in a different state. I'm anticipating that the results will turn up basic information on why the corona of the sun is at 1,000,000 degrees. That accounts for the acceleration of the solar wind. I'm just waiting for the data now, and the experts can get busy and sort it out, because there's an awful lot of data coming in, or will be a lot of data coming in. All I can say is, wow, here we go. We're in for some learning over the next several years.
NASA has billed the mission as the first spacecraft to touch the sun. In reality, it should come within 3.83 million miles of the sun's surface, close enough to study the curious phenomenon of the solar wind in the sun's atmosphere, known as the corona, which is 300 times hotter than its surface. Scientists hope this close encounter will give them a better understanding of solar wind and geomagnetic storms that risk wrecking chaos on Earth by knocking out the power grid. These poorly understood solar outbursts could potentially wipe out power to millions of people. Experts say a worst-case scenario would cost up to $2 trillion in the first year alone and take a decade for full recovery. That is today's Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Join us tomorrow for stories that matter to you. Visit our websites at eaglenews.ph and eaglenewslive.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenewsph. Thank you for watching. I'm Anna Cui, and I'm 1 with 25.